Recently, one of my 5 UniFi access point U6 mesh died, which is merely after 1.5 years of use. Sadly, this is out of warranty window. My sporadic, casual computer network hobby, or perhaps better to say as UniFi addiction, started over 3.5 years ago. Now my entire wired and Wi-Fi home network are built with UniFi Gears. Although I have been fairly satisfied with the UniFi experience, I thought this may be a good time to revisit and see what better alternative options I have or may be missing. In this planned 2-part series, I'd like to share my personal experience of switching UniFi Wi-Fi home network to alternative setup as a sporadic, casual network hobbyist perspective. In this first of the series, I am sharing my personal experience of how I started aligning UniFi system and the current thought process of choosing the alternative options. Although you may not agree with my final decision, I hope at least part of my thought process helps your decision for those in the similar situation as I am. Let's get started. It has been over 3 years since I have started my UniFi home network construction. The most recent UniFi setup consists of 3 U6 professional access points, 1 SHD access point, and U6 mesh, all wired. On my server rack, I have UniFi Dream Machine Pro, USW Pro 24 PoE, USW aggregation, USW Flex XG, along with 3 USW Flex Mini in different rooms. However, despite being the most recent addition to the network, recently the U6 mesh died, with merely a little over a year and a half of use. The unit felt quite hot from the day one, so I was worried about this device may not last long, but it was rather faster lifespan than I thought. Since it's already out of the warranty, my options were order replacement, buy upgrade such as U6 Enterprise. Fortunately, I still have corner-to-corner Wi-Fi coverage throughout my home, just not at max speed everywhere anymore, but still pretty much everywhere over 200 megabits per second. So I could also wait for Wi-Fi 7 version of access point to release. But then the third option came to my mind. What if I start to look for entirely new wireless network setup? Despite UniFi had served me very well so far, it was not a problem-free 3.5 years. There are times my wired and wireless network gave me issues that felt to be arising from UniFi network. Each time I upgrade to new firmware, I worry for possibility of something could break on my network, though this seems much less frequent lately. Some practical impacts include roaming issue that constantly drops Wi-Fi call in the same area of the house. This happens at the spot where one of the access points is located within 10 feet. Sometimes new IoT device setup requiring way more troubleshooting than I had imagined. Then there were features that looks promising or interesting as network hobbyist, but most never worked for me, and can't find actual documentation what they do. So I thought this may be a good time for me to at least do some research about alternative options, especially since I now have a little bit more basic network understanding when compared to 3.5 years ago. I can at least make an educated guess for what it would be the new learning curve for me if I were to go with new system. Despite something to desire, I have been fairly happy with my current UniFi Wi-Fi setup. This makes my search criteria for alternatives are much more strict. So I have listed my personal new ideal Wi-Fi systems requirement in order of priorities. Stability, scalability, no mandatory subscription, local controller system, and speed. Stability refers to uninterrupted Wi-Fi connection. In my opinion, The ideal Wi-Fi network should be like air we breathe. Once we set up, we forget about it, other than the times I want to play around with new network settings as a hobby. In large scale, the stable system should require essentially no to very seldom rebooting. The system after weeks or months of the running should perform as well as it did on the day of the reboot. At the level of daily use, we should have uninterrupted streaming, gaming, Zoom meeting, and Wi-Fi call all at once. Previously, I misinterpreted stall on streaming, video chat, or voice over internet as speed or throughput issue. But Netflix requires just over 15 megabits per second for its 4K streaming. Zoom video call recommends only 4 megabits per second for 1080p HD, even on group meeting. With 2 gigabit per second down, 200 megabits per second up asymmetric service, and iPerf test of 100 megabit per second every corner of my house, most part over 400 megabit per second, these issues cannot be related to throughput. They are usually related to latency, network congestion, and other things. So I categorize these issues as stability issue. I also categorize poor roaming in multiple access point system as stability issue. Technically, these classifications may be arbitrary, but I know they are usually separate from conventional internet speed test or local network iPerf test result. Since these are the issue I am experiencing with my current UniFi system, the new system, if any, must solve these. If these issues improve, then I call stability is improved. And that's actually day-to-day practical end-user experience improvement. It's far more important than high iPerf number or internet speed test numbers. Modularity or scalability may not be as important to many home users. But if you are watching this video, I think you are probably like myself, who are network enthusiasts or hobbyists, who may be thinking or at least like to think about optimizing or upgrading your home network. In such situation, I think modularity and scalability of the network system is important. Being able to upgrade, swap, or add one piece at a time allows me to try out a cutting-edge technology, troubleshoot, and improve overall network experience without overhauling the entire network each time. In technology, I believe there is no true future-proof. It's all relative because everything gets better in fairly short time. So if someone is looking for the latest and the greatest, I think one way to look at the future-proof system is its modular, scalable system, where you can add, swap each piece and continue to evolve the system as you desire. This is totally my personal preference, but I feel many home users might feel the same way. I just have an issue of thinking suddenly my system becomes locked down and won't even work as soon as my subscription expires. This may be okay for business use as they need timely, constant tech support, as their use is mission critical. Now, having said this, I am not against optional subscription for extra, advanced features. For example, if someone needs real-time, true tech support or special technology that requires continued update, such as AI-driven network optimization, I can see it could be subscription and see how well it works. I might even consider, because as a home user, I may just need it for a month and get high performance setup, then I leave it as it is, since our home network use won't change that drastically day to day. This is sort of a continuation of no subscription. Technically, I am okay with cloud-based controller, so long as there is local controller option. Some wants to make sure network controller is accessible even during internet is down. But I personally don't see myself needing to change Wi-Fi setting in such urgency. So as long as the Wi-Fi network continues to work during internet down with existing setting, I have no issue with it. However, the concern I have when a system does not offer local controller option is the potential risk of when the manufacturer decides to stop providing the support. If that happens, then we lose control to our device permanently at that point. Realistically speaking, the chance of this happening when purchasing from major brand is very low, but end-of-life devices and losing their support can be a real thing. Although, as some who likes newer technologies, I'd most likely have upgraded to the latest device well before that anyways, but I still don't like to think for losing something after purchasing. Finally, the last, but the still important criteria category for me is the speed. This is actually an interesting topic of its own. Before I knew much about the network, I had thought network performance is best depicted by internet speed test and iPerf type local speed test. The bigger the number I can get, the better the network is. However, this is not necessarily translated to end user experience, and I've learned that fairly early stage when I started playing with Wi-Fi system. My original consumer-grade mesh network system set up with Ovi had 4 times speed test numbers compared to the Eero mesh network in the same area of my house. But Ovi had a stability issue while Eero didn't. My family members who know nothing about Wi-Fi had 0 complaints while I had Eero set up, but I got constant complaints with the Ovi and the subsequent AI Mesh Wi-Fi 6 system. Yet speed test numbers were all higher than Eero. Another main reason why I'm putting this on the lowest criteria is this is a factor that has the least likely variation because they usually follow each device specification pretty well. Don't get me wrong, there are differences amongst devices with relatively similar specs. Many companies brag about their proprietary innovative technology to distinguish themselves. There are many online sites and YouTube videos to show the difference amongst the devices with similar specs. And I myself have tested some in the past and definitely noticed that there are real differences, yet I feel such difference may be relatively small and may not necessarily translate to end user experience as much. So specifically, what are the access point specifications that I'm looking at? The first is Wi-Fi standard. I need at least Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6E is here. I only have 2 clients supporting it, but one is wired at 10G. If the price is right, I would not mind it, but if it costs a premium, I'd rather wait for Wi-Fi 7. Standard MIMO operation to consider are 2x2 versus 4x4. Practically speaking, most clients I own are 2x2 except old MacBook Pro, which has 3x3 but it's Wi-Fi 5 client, so it could be irrelevant. Technically, if we have 4x4 MU MIMO capable AP and MU MIMO capable clients, I should be able to get 2x2 MIMO clients connecting simultaneously at their max speeds. However, I don't know if Apple products supports it. I read some website, yes, but I can't see official Apple statement. In fact, I've tried iPerf tests across 2 wirelessly connected Apple devices and also individually downstream iPerf simultaneously across MU MIMO capable UniFi access point. And the speed cut in half on both tests. So I think iOS devices do not support MU MIMO. So priority of having more than 2x2 MIMO system is relatively low for me. Channel width affects throughput proportionally. The main question here is, do I need 160 MHz channel width in the 5 GHz band? In 5 GHz band, 160 MHz is a possible option. If that works, then that alone can get us twice the throughput than the typical 80 MHz channel width, setting at home network. There are a couple challenges here though. The first is I do not believe any Apple product, which is our primary household Wi-Fi client, currently supports it. Second, channel setting will require to use dynamic frequency selection channels, which in my area can actually trigger and because of network instability. Thus, I won't be able to use 160 MHz in 5 GHz band at my home. Therefore, it's not an important factor for me. However, if you are Android users, single AP setting, and no concern of DFS strike, 160 MHz support may be an important criteria. So, basically from the speed aspect, my requirement is relatively low. I need to make sure the platform has access point with at least Wi-Fi 6 capable, 2x2 MIMO, and 80 MHz channel width capable on 5 GHz. So this is my practical need. As a tech enthusiast, it is nice to know the platform supports newer technologies in timely fashion. So I won't be needing it right away. It will be plus to see Wi-Fi 6E support and perhaps promise of Wi-Fi 7 support as soon as the standard is finalized. Now that I have defined my search criteria, I've started to look at my options based on category of devices from consumer grade all the way up to enterprise grade. I've started with consumer graded gears. One major benefit of consumer graded gears are they adopt newer technologies much faster. There are already Wi-Fi 7 routers and mesh systems available in what we often refer to as consumer graded systems. This includes major consumer brands, Netgear Ovi, Linksys Vlop, Amazon Eero, ASUS AI Mesh compatible routers, and so on. One thing I found interesting is that Eero now mentioned that their newer Eero can be mixed with older Eero devices, which I think is a step towards modularity or scalability in their system. However, I'm still worried about consumer gears stability, and certainly modularity and scalabilities are lacking. I've been happy with router and firewall unit being separated from access points, and currently no plan to go back. So, consumer-graded gears were out from my list immediately. Although some says UniFi gears are good for business setting, I often hear they fall under prosumer gear category, which I agree. In this category, I found three primary contenders: Aruba Instant On, Meraki Go, and TP-Link Omada. The interesting part of these three platforms are where they are coming from. I believe TP-Link is known for consumer-graded network gears. Omada series is their step into small business category. While Aruba and Meraki are well-known enterprise network brands, Instant On and Meraki Go are their prosumer, small business grade versions. And unlike their enterprise counterparts, both requires no license or subscription. It is important to know that Aruba and Meraki enterprise gears are completely separate from Aruba Instant On and Meraki Go products. So you can't use Instant On gear on an enterprise network or vice versa. I have not researched deep enough to say what have been stripped off on prosumer models compared to enterprise models in these platforms from both hardware and software, but I would assume there are some significant changes based on the price difference. I've also read on Reddit it may be possible Aruba Instant On uses the same hardware as the enterprise version, but you just can never convert one from the other. Whether the same internal hardware is true or aside, both Meraki Go and Aruba Instant On certainly lack catalog selection when compared to their enterprise listing, but also when compared to UniFi. Meraki Go's top of the line is 2x2 Wi-Fi 6, 1 gigabit per second uplink access point. Aruba Instant On has 4x4 Wi-Fi 6 access point with 2.5 gigabit Ethernet uplink at its top of the line model. However, neither has Wi-Fi 6 model. While this is not a deal breaker for me at the moment, it tells me the latest technology is not these product lines' top priority. Hence, there are a good chance their Wi-Fi 7 product shipping may also be significantly later than the UniFi. Also, in regarding to the price for relatively similar models, UniFi looks more attractive to me although I read several users commenting they moved from UniFi to Aruba Instant On the paper, I did not feel the enough potential for the switch. On the other hand, Omada looks really good on selection as well as price. Their top-of-the-line product has Wi-Fi 6E support with 10 gigabit per second uplink Ethernet port. When we look at the U6 Professional equivalent access point, it has 2.5 gigabit uplink as opposed to the U6 Pro's 1 gigabit uplink, while Omada AP is cheaper. Furthermore, Omada offers what the real enterprise platforms are offering. That is, besides a license and subscription-free software-based controller, users can purchase hardware controller and even subscribe for cloud-based controller for added features. Though in this regard, one must be a bit skeptical for actual content. I have not researched enough, but just looking at their official website summary table, they list what I consider the most fundamental form of radio resource management, such as auto channel selection and cell site adjustment. The feature I had hoped UniFi's once called Wi-Fi AI would have done for us. However, this is listed under cloud-based controller feature in Omada. When we talk about the classic enterprise manufacturers, we don't need to pay for these. It's free built on. Another thing that makes me skeptical in this fact, they list such basic features as part of the list rather than more sophisticated proprietary technology, even if they were just market talk. This is my personal bias, but I had always viewed TP-Link as a consumer gear brand and thought they were budget-friendly product, but never looked them as a premium quality first product. One of UK blogger nicely goes in detail of comparing UniFi to Omada as a whole platform. If you are interested in Omada, I highly recommend you to check that blog out. They state Omada has having slightly reputation for second-class product, which is concordant with my notion of the brand from consumer gear side. However, the author says part of it might be due to lower price point of the TP-Link that may be playing the reputation. Their conclusion was generally suggesting installing UniFi because aesthetic and user experience. The performance are compatible, but Omada has fewer bugs than the UniFi. For those who are security conscious, be aware for TP-Link being a Chinese company. My impression of Omada, just on paper, is they can be compatible to UniFi, but I did not feel it is something unanimously viewed as superior product. So, unlike 3.5 years ago, this time, I've decided to take a look at a level above, the actual enterprise market. At this level, many require subscription and license, so that alone narrowed my option quickly. But fortunately, the list wasn't empty. For example, in this category, we have Meraki, which my work use, and they have Meraki switch set at my home for home workstation use. Other brands include such as Aruba, Ruckus, and Juniper. Meraki and Juniper looked to have no subscription or license-free option, so they were out. On the other hand, both Ruckus and Aruba offers option to use enterprise gears without license or subscription. What's great about these options are they are real enterprise hardware, but they can be controlled locally with local access point being controller without recurring fee. It is important to note that Aruba here is not same as Aruba Instant On. They call instant mode. It's a mode of operation for their enterprise access point. I really think they named these poorly because when I tried to search about instant on, I didn't really catch instant mode. And when I tried to search instant mode operation reviews, I got a bunch of instant on related sites. As a result, I initially thought Aruba did not offer an enterprise product to run without subscription or license. Basically, both Ruckus Unleashed and Aruba Instant Mode are their simplest mode of control. The exact same devices can be upgraded to cloud-based or dedicated device-based controller system for a full-blown enterprise network system, if anyone desires. Although I have zero intention for doing so, this felt really nice, as I would be using the real enterprise products if I were to choose one of these. Both of these systems looked promising for potentially offering overall better performance than the UniFi WiFi systems, based on their track records, reputation, and more importantly, the purpose of these devices were designed for. Let's compare and contrast these two. Anytime I try to search similarly spec'd access points between these two brands, I find Aruba have better pricing. This is generally true on Amazon, eBay, even on used ones. For instance, the cheapest I could find brand new Lucas R750, which I believe is practically the top-end model for Unleashed, on eBay from recently sold history was over $500, and even used one were over $400. Whereas the Aruba AP535 model has new one on eBay for just $200. Lower-end Wi-Fi 6 access point model from Lucas is R350. The brand new R350 is $200 for a recently sold one on eBay, while AP505 is listed for $160. So for the price-wise, Aruba seems to have advantage. As mentioned earlier, part of my criteria is having an option to try out cutting-edge technology. In this regard, both vendors have Wi-Fi 6E access points available to purchase. But Ruckus Unleashed firmware is not compatible with any of Wi-Fi 6E models. So there is technically no Ruckus option for Wi-Fi 6E. However, this doesn't mean Aruba is superior in this category, because Ruckus already have Wi-Fi 7 access point listed on their website, including actual specification sheet. If all planned, they should be releasing it by end of December. Whereas Aruba currently does not have any Wi-Fi 7 access point. So unless Aruba release Wi-Fi 7 access point before Lucas, the order of who adopts the most cutting-edge technology will change. Basically, here I think as a home user, both should be fine option. But what about the topmost criteria for me? The stability and actual performance of access points. This is indeed I spend most of my time researching. However, this may be due to target market audience difference. Getting actual performance-related comparison data amongst enterprise gears were much harder than consumer gears. One source I found is peerspot.com, where they look like they compile user reviews and use them to compare the products. According to this, Ruckus is listed as a superior solution. Although I do not know the site's credibility, they do mention price difference appropriately, and of course giving Aruba its credit. On this comparison, they say users of Aruba like the GUI and the scalability, but complaining its stability. In contrast, users of Ruckus claims performance being amazing and stability is great, then complains about security needing improvement. As a home user, I would never get the full GUI access to either of these products, so that's irrelevant. Security could be a major issue, but I think it is less relevant for home Wi-Fi setting, as we have full control of what's connecting to our Wi-Fi network compared to public or enterprise setting. Certainly seeing my keyword of stability mentioned as weakness on Aruba and strength on Ruckus makes me think Ruckus is a better solution for me if this was trustworthy ethos. Next I came across YouTube video, stress test, comparing Ruckus Wi-Fi 6 access points against compatible models from other major enterprise brands, including Aruba AP535, as well as others such as Meraki MR46 and Mist AP43. The main conclusion of the test was the only Lucas R750 was able to handle all traffic consistently with higher average throughput under the multiple concurrent device use. This would have been the exact source I was looking for, except this study was sponsored, designed, and conducted by Lucas. The report was created by a third-party author who states he observed and confirmed the validity of the test. I read actual test report, which is available free online, so let's take a brief look at this. The test consisted 30 Dell laptop simultaneously streaming 1080 HD video through local network via a single access point. During the 3 minutes stress test period, 5 iPads simulating VoIP conversation, 5 iPad downloading data, and 20 MacBook Pro simulating volume size data download were introduced. All but 20 MacBook Pro were in the same room as the access point, and MacBook Pros were in the adjacent room. In order to reduce the bias, each access point used out-of-the-box default setting. During the stress test period, a few things were measured, which included number of stall-free streaming Dell laptops and average throughput of downloading clients. Average throughput of Ruckus was 441 megabits per second, while Aruba came fourth with 232 megabits per second. Ruckus was completely stall-free, with no laptop loss streaming based on their testing criteria, while Aruba had almost half of the laptops stalled, yet it was the second best AP in this measurement. Overall, the test conclusion was, despite all access points having similar spec, Ruckus R750 outperformed all other APs in every test. Again, if this was a true third-party designed and conducted test, this would have been close to the best proof confirming the Ruckus access point quality. Now, the test could still be valid, but a few questions came to my mind, which weren't addressed on the paper. For example, although the test was done with out-of-the-box setting for all access points, there is nothing here to prevent Ruckus from making the stress test condition identical to companies' internal normal device testing condition that are used to make their default out-of-the-box setting. If this were the case, the default out-of-the-box setting for the Ruckus AP is actually the same as optimized setting for the testing condition. Another point is the switch used in this test was Ruckus' own product. Since all clients were on the same VLAN, it might not have had much impact, but it would have been less confounding factor if they chose some well-known third-party switch, or at least tested with a couple different brand switches. Third, the test was run for just 3 minutes. This felt a rather short time. Could the result change with longer stress? Perhaps Ruckus may perform well at the beginning, but may not be able to sustain its advantage for a longer time. I'm certainly talking result with a grain of salt, but it's the only data-driven comparison I could find from recent years between Aruba and Ruckus. This was actually an easier decision for me because I ordered Ruckus APs before I discovered Aruba Instant Mode. Had I known Aruba Instant Mode existed, the decision would have been much harder. But in the end, after pondering, I would have still chosen Ruckus because of my top priority was to improve Wi-Fi stability, and Ruckus seems to have the best chance based on my research. If I had chosen anything else, and if the performance gain is minimal compared to UniFi, I would then have to keep thinking about possibility of better alternative out there for me. That's it for this episode. I won't go into detailed comparison between my new Ruckus multi-AP setup and UniFi Wi-Fi setup today, because some of my AP is still on its way. That will be focused on the next episode. But one thing I can say is With my about a week of experience with Ruckus, I have been very impressed so far. If you were recently, currently, or soon to be setting up a new home Wi-Fi setup, what's your thought process and your final decision? Please share in the comment. Thanks for watching.